MetsMinute Nation is me, Todd, your fearless leader, back here once again, reporting live from Cleveland, Ohio, coming straight off of the Mets versus Indians Saturday matinee game today. Another disappointing game, but I'll get to that in a minute. As I said, I'm here in Cleveland. It's a very special week. I'll be introducing you to a number of our guests that you'll see repeatedly throughout the year, and I'm sure you're as excited as I am to meet all of them. First, I want to address the question I left you with last week. Who's going to be a more important player to their team this year? Daniel Murphy, the Mets second baseman from last year, or Neil Walker, our current second baseman? It was fun being at the game today because we saw Neil Walker hit another home run, so that's 2 for the year, and he's living up to his promise of having a lot of pop. That said, Murphy's playing fantastic for the Nationals, and maybe more importantly, the Nationals are playing better around him. So it is a difficult one that maybe we'll argue throughout the year, but for me right now, my gut says Murphy will probably have a more consistent year and maybe have slightly better numbers, but it'll be interesting to see, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that throughout the year. Getting to this week, first I want to recap the week we've just had. We're 2 weeks into the season now. The Mets are 4-6. That's not where any of us want it to be. We're the reigning National League champions, and we thought we had a better formula going than this. That said, it is early, and a lot of people have reminded me of that, and a lot of calls and a lot of emails about that, so I appreciate it. But we definitely wanted to be doing better than this. Another loss today. It was a close game. I think basically the synopsis is the pitching isn't as good as advertised so far. Obviously, we're missing DeGrom, and all of MetsMinute wants to send out our best wishes to the DeGrom family. We heard some unfortunate news about his family, and we hope everything is okay there. But obviously the pitching hasn't been where it should be, and the hitting's been really quite bad. It's surprising we have 4 wins at this point. So I think we're lucky to be where we are, and I think we're a better team than this, so looking forward to seeing how it improves throughout the year. With that, without further ado, really looking forward to introducing you to my guests. First up, I would like to introduce you to Alex. He stands at 6'4" from Washington, D.C., and what I like most about him is he's an eternal optimist, and I think I'm going to really need that this year. So Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Good. So Alex, being that you are an optimistic kind of guy, what is it that you'd say you're most excited about the team right now, and why should I not be so upset about what we've got going?
I'm actually feeling really good coming out of this weekend. So the biggest concern I had before these Cleveland games was one of the things you were just talking about, the quiet offense. We have so many potential offensive threats, and nobody was doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I never got too pessimistic. I know that Grandy is not going to finish the season batting 150.
Mm-hmm.
Travis d'Arnaud is not going to finish the season batting 120. They're going to come around. We were already seeing some nice pop from Cespedes. Wright has been relatively consistent, so I knew that things were going to come together offensively. And it was nice to see over the past 2 days that start to happen. We scored 6 runs on Friday, 5 runs today. That's what we need to get it done with this pitching rotation. So as for the other concern that you raised, the pitching itself, also I have to say I'm not that concerned there either.
Classic.
DeGrom's absence is definitely a blow. We need him back as soon as possible, but I don't think that this lat pull is going to sideline him for a significant portion of the season, probably only a few weeks. And as for Harvey, he's still one of the greatest pitchers in the league. I think he's going to have an amazing season. I just don't see it as a plausible scenario that all of a sudden he falls off the table as a completely different pitcher. Did he have a tough day today? Oh yeah, that was a tough one to watch live. But through those first 4 innings, he was the Dark Knight that we know and love. He was overpowering and consistent. And I think that the kind of inning that we saw today in the 5th is going to be rare this season.
Yeah.
I just don't see it as a plausible scenario any other way.
That was incredibly articulate, well thought out, and I'm starting to think perhaps you should host this show. And I appreciate you being on, and I look forward to having you throughout the year.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'd like to bring up my next guest. Welcome, Josh. Josh stands at 6 feet tall from Cleveland, Ohio. He's a local boy, and he's the smartest person I know, and he's a mathematician. So those 2 things make him our excellent in-house statistician for MetsMinute. And Josh, you apply those skills towards being a whiz at fantasy baseball.
That's right. There's nothing more beneficial to society that could think of to put those skills towards
Correct.
doing.
Absolutely,
so,
yes.
Fantasy players are well aware of the NL champion Mets from last year.
Thank you.
Actually, we only know about your pitching staff. So there are a couple things I want to mention regarding that.
Please.
One is that Noah Syndergaard was getting a lot of love before the season, but clearly not enough.
Mm-hmm.
He has moved from really tier 2 fantasy starters into that top tier. If you can deal a second tier starter and someone else and they think they're getting about an equivalent trade, and you can get Syndergaard on the cheap, absolutely go for it. He's demonstrated that he is now a top tier starter, and Thor, can help your team ascend to Valhalla. Somebody who is not getting enough love is, in fact, the aforementioned Neil Walker. This is a solid contributor. He's somebody who can produce for your fantasy team. If you waited late to draft your second baseman, you might want to see if he's available on the wire, swap him in there. You're going to get a decent average, decent power production. That's the kind of thing that can walk your team into first place.
That was beautiful. You guys keep outdoing each other. Thank you, Josh, for being on the show. Looking forward to having you call in throughout the year. I'd like to bring up my next guest, Mr. Ben. Thank you for joining us. This chair almost fits you. And but I thought it was important to have a youth's perspective on the game because you are the future of the game. You are the future of society. So thank you for joining us today. I know you're a Cleveland boy. You're a huge Indians fan. Given this year's team, it's a young team, who's your favorite player and why?
Probably Jason Kipnis.
Kipnis.
Because he's a second baseman. I really like second base. And I like how he hits well.
Who wouldn't like that? We would like that on the Mets right now. So if you're interested in giving him up for nothing, let us know. Ben, thank you for being on the show. My next guest is another one of my faves. His name is Aaron. He goes 5'10" from Washington, D.C. He's a handsome guy. I'm not sure what else to say about him regarding baseball, but we are looking forward to getting the outsider's perspective on the game. So, Aaron, general thoughts about the Mets?
Thank you so much, Tad. So
Okay.
I think, there's a couple of things I think we need to focus on.
Yeah.
One is the hitting.
Do you think we should focus on the hitting? I think so too, Aaron. And you seem pretty worked up about the hitting. If you can kind of dive into that any more.
I mean, all right. So you take a game like today. We had 74 hits, and we didn't convert.
Okay, your voice got really high there, so I think you should think a little bit more about your stats. Look, I appreciate you coming on. I want you to study a little bit more, and I'd actually like to have you back on later this year.
I want to talk about Mickey Pettigrew when we get back.
Okay, good.
He's
I
got
want
no
you-
potential.
I want you to go think. That was really interesting. Finally, to wrap this up, last but not least, by far not least, we've got Professor Pessimistic. I think this show is going too well. There's too much optimism. We are talking about the Mets here. So I'd like to bring in a new perspective. Don, you go 5'11" from Ithaca, New York, lifetime Mets fan. You're 5'11". Please, give us your negative thoughts about the Mets and try to keep it concise because I know you have a lot.
Not feeling good about the team, Todd.
Good.
I feel like Harvey at 0-3, high ERA, unable to last in a game, very, very concerning. Young Steven Matz got absolutely shelled in his first performance, and I think that the promise that he showed in 15 is just not coming through so far. Lack of hitting, as several of your other guests have mentioned. You've got Darno, Duda. They are just not producing, and unless these guys can turn it around, we could be looking at the SI curse this year.
Wow. Those were arguments that are hard to argue with as well. Don, thank you for being on the show. I think this has been an incredibly successful show, perhaps the best Mets Minute yet. Don't forget, if you're interested in more of this commentary, to subscribe below and to hit the subscribe button as well. And also, when you have any kind of feedback about the episode, please write it down here in the comments section. We really look forward to having it. And so, to wrap this up, this has been a long episode. My question for next week is this. Matt Harvey, he's been a topic today. He's 0-3. He did great today and he fell off a cliff. What do we have for him for the rest of this season? Is it Cy Young candidacy, which everybody believed it would be? Or is it somebody who it's rock bottom and is out of baseball by the end of the year? Or is it somewhere in between? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Write them in the comments section below. And thank you so much for subscribing. I'll see you next week back out in California.
Yeah.